Hello,
Hello.
hello, change makers, and thank you so much for being with us here again today. Today has been a fun day of celebrating change makers who are out here to make a global impact. And if you haven't signed up to be an interviewee yet, please make sure that you find the post in our group and let me know that you want to be interviewed, because we have had some amazing people this week. And today is no different. I am honored and blessed to have Marc Mangus with us today. And Marc, you have an incredible story to share. I can't wait for you to tell everybody about it. So please say hello and tell us how you got on the path that you're on today.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Marc Mangus, known as the Digital Shaman, and I'm a shamanic practitioner and health coach. And my story is probably is similar to a lot of people that I had a chronic illness from a car accident. In my case, it was chronic pain. And I was kind of abandoned by Western medicine. And in fact, following my doctor's advice almost killed me. I had if you have had chronic pain or somebody in your family, you know that kind of the state of the art treatment is they give you medication and send you to a pain clinic and kind of pat you on the back and say good luck. That's it. And I did that for 12 years. And because you can't move, you don't want to move. You eat comfort food. You do things to kind of assuage the pain in any way that you can. I ballooned up to 415 pounds and had pre-diabetic. My vitamin levels and cholesterol and all that stuff was completely out of whack. And it got to the point where, as I was telling Cheyenne, I was suicidal. I thought, well, what's the point of living like this? This is no way for anybody to live, right? And I had to choose to check in or check out. I'm here, so obviously I made the choice to figure it out. And I realized that the doctors weren't going to help me, and so I had to find a way to enable healing on my own. And so that's what led me to alternative healing modalities of all kinds. I mean, literally, I voraciously read everything I could. I tried different things, from Reiki to acupuncture to chiropractic and a lot of the things helped incrementally. But what I realized much, much later was that I was still taking a path that was leading to just kind of adding new suffering, new layers of suffering, right? Incremental improvement and more pain, more suffering, and self recrimination, blame and shame of myself for not being able to heal, right? And the mental health aspect of it, being depressed and all that kind of stuff, and then having to take medication for that. So I know a lot of people listening can probably relate to aspects of this because it affects so many people. But what I finally figured out and what I was called to do through a series of events was indigenous wisdom and shamanic practice, particularly the Peruvian Andes, the Q'ero people. And I went through a 6-month initiation and training program. And a core part of that program is teaching you about Aini. It's a Quechua word, Ayni, and it roughly translates into harmony and reciprocity. And that's how they live. That's how they teach their children from the youngest age, is that we're interconnected and that we exist as individuals because we exist in a group, in a community. And the saying they have about that is today for me, tomorrow for you. So everything they do is with the group health in mind. Such a different way to live than I had ever experienced. And what it made me realize on my health and my healing journey was that I was not in Aini. I was not in harmony, and there was no reciprocity. It was all about me and my pain. And so when I started to practice the specific things that I was learning about how to eat, how to live, my connection to the earth, my connection to the divine, all these things together, holistically, mind, body, spirit, started to shift my health.
Wow.
So I was out of this Western world of compartmentalizing all my problems and looking at myself as a collection of symptoms.
Mm.
And I moved into a world where everything is interconnected and that you can't change one thing without changing everything. But conversely, once you change one thing, everything starts to shift.
Mm.
And so I totally changed my diet. I changed my movement patterns. I'm today, fast forward now. It's been about 2 years. I've lost 130 pounds. I have no chronic pain, pain free. I'm on no Western medications at all. The pre-diabetic, all the other health concerns that I've had are completely normal.
Wow.
And it was during that time, not one doctor visit.
That's so
It had
cool.
nothing to do with Western medicine. Now, fortunately for me, I found a really good doctor where I am that's totally invested in my story and my journey. And I meet with
Mhm.
her every 3 months now so that she can do labs and record my progress.
Ah,
And
documentation.
yes, and so our visits are really fun because it's more her interviewing me about what the latest thing I've discovered is. And she's
Nice.
like, "Yeah, I want to know because I'm going to tell my other patients to do some of this stuff." Right?
I love it.
So yeah, it's really cool.
That is cool. Now, is she an MD or some other kind of practitioner?
So in Oregon, you can be a general practitioner as it's a nurse. It's a nursing degree, but it's like the highest level nursing degree.
Nurse
So you have to be that
practitioner,
or a
probably.
doctor. Yeah, like a nurse practitioner. Exactly.
Gotcha. Very good. Very good. Because I know Oregon, I believe, is one of the states where there's some awesome naturopathy schools as well. Because we do a lot of work, my husband and I, with a couple of naturopathic physicians. So I was just curious, but that's awesome if a nurse practitioner can play a major role because they're usually a lot more compassionate too.
100%. Yeah, they actually listen and want to talk more and actually engage, right?
Mhm. Wow. So you've accumulated all this knowledge that just comes from all over the world, it sounds like. So, what
Mhm.
specifically are you doing with all that wisdom and knowledge now?
So what I'm doing now is I've kind of devised a 12-week program that I call Spirit Health Activation. And
Ooh.
it's kind of it incorporates a lot of the Andean philosophy, but it's also a lot of the practical stuff that I learned, like go do this, change this, shift this. But it's all about small incremental changes that add up to a lifestyle change. This isn't a diet program. It's not a get healthy quick program. It's how can I change my life so that I'm essentially living a regenerative lifestyle. And once you put your body, mind, and spirit into that regenerative state, you can recover from almost anything,
Wow.
any health
Wow.
condition, right? Because you're giving your body the chance to do what it was designed to do and heal.
Mm.
You're getting out of the way, right?
Exactly. I'm always telling people, it's like, do you understand that when you cut your finger, it does heal?
Yeah,
The body
right.
wants to heal.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. Wow, wow. But but you're talking about a total transformation here because you're talking about body and emotions and sounds even on a spiritual level. That's amazing. So I know there's a lot of people out here with a real interest in, longevity, aging backwards, those
Mhm.
kinds of things. I mean, has any of that been part of your experience?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, the book that was incorporated into the training program that I went through, that Dr. Alberto Villoldo wrote, is called "Grow in a Body," and it's a combination of the spiritual side of why the ancient people, particularly the Andean Q'ero, that are the descendants of the Inca, why they eat and live the way they have for hundreds of years, and then the science behind why it works.
I love
So
it.
it gets into ketosis and autophagy and NRF2 pathways and how vitamins work and how enzymes work and all that stuff. But it's because they're trying to describe this way of living that's been around for 100 years or hundreds of years and why it works. So the people
Nice.
that live this way live to be very old and very healthy. There's no disease, essentially.
Mm,
There's no chronic disease in their society. And it's
wow.
because of this way of living in Heinen, right? And so that's what I learned. But then my kind of layer on top of that, or the secret sauce, is all the ways that I have learned to kind of make that livable and maybe not quite so austere than it might be for some people that aren't used to doing intermittent fasting and some of the other things. So I've tried to develop it into kind of a gentle incremental on ramp to some of these concepts, and
Good.
something that you can sustain for a lifetime.
Mm. Wow. I love it. I love it. Your story is just so amazing and has the ability to give hope to so many people. There's so many people living in physical pain, emotional pain. You know, the fact that had become suicidal. My husband and I did a big suicide prevention program last year in North Carolina because we're being told that suicide is the second leading cause of death of 10 to 18-year-olds.
Oh yeah,
That is just horrific. It's not acceptable. And, and we understand why. I mean, you look out here, if all you're seeing is the world around you and you don't understand the world within, then, it's enough to give anybody PTSD these
that's
days.
right. That's 100% right. And it's funny you should mention PTSD because that's kind of also epidemic now. There's so many scenarios that people go through now where they get traumatized, and
Mhm.
because they don't have any of these practices as an outlet, the trauma becomes somatic. It becomes locked in your body.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
people that don't understand stress disorders don't understand that that's how it works. You
Hmm.
can't just gut it out and decide to be okay
Right.
because you've internalized that trauma. It's actually in your body now.
Hmm.
So you can try to compartmentalize it and you can try to say, well, I'm just going to, pick myself up by my bootstraps and move on. But you're really living half a life because you're not allowing yourself now to feel anymore.
Right.
Because when you
Right.
do, you re-traumatize yourself, right? So there's a
Yeah.
huge link, not just between the nutritional support and the brain support from the nutrition to do the work you need to do to heal from something like a stress disorder, but it's also that connection to something greater than yourself. And I don't care what you call it, God,
Nope.
spirit, the universe, source, it doesn't matter. Even if you're an agnostic or an atheist, if you believe that it's better to serve mankind than to serve yourself, even, right? It's a
Mhm.
philosophical. If
Yes.
you're not feeling that kind of connection, it's very, very difficult to get the objectivity you need
Yeah.
to witness yourself as this healing being and do the things you need to do to heal yourself because you're always locked in the trauma. So
Yes.
it's it's very difficult also to rely on the Western methods. I'm not saying that they're not effective because they are as an interventional thing, right? If you want to
Yes.
give somebody medication to give them space to work on something, fine, that's great. But I'm talking about lifestyle. Do you
Yes.
want to be
Yes.
taking that medication until you die? Or do you want to use it for its intended purpose, which is to give you the space to do the work?
Yes.
The shamans talk about turning into the pain and asking for the message.
Mm. Yeah.
That's not what we do in the West. We turn away from the pain and we find anything and everything we can to mask it, to
Yep.
stop
We
ourselves from
stuff it.
experiencing it. Yeah.
Wow. 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 Yeah, it's interesting because Western medicine doctors have been saying for a long time that stress is the number one cause of disease, but they never made the connection that stress is an actual energy that comes from your emotions that does get caught in the body and cause all kinds of havoc. So, I love what you're talking about because it seems like you're kind of bringing together the scientific world with the spiritual world. It's all about the energy that exists, and just because we can't see energy doesn't mean it's not there.
Right. Just because we can't describe it in strictly rationalist terms doesn't mean there isn't truth there. And
That's
that's
it.
that's what I talk about with clients a lot is that whether you talk about religion, orthodox religion, or you talk about science, or you talk about spirituality, indigenous wisdom, whatever it is, I believe that there's truth everywhere.
Mhm.
And we've got to stop thinking in terms of these dualistic paradigms where we have to pick a side.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
what happens then is we give up our sovereignty
Yes.
and we give
We
up
do.
and we give all of our energy to the fight, the
Mhm.
opposition, right? And but that's there are people in the world without going into the conspiracy route because you don't even need a conspiracy, right?
Oh,
There are people in the world that benefit from us thinking that.
it's true. True.
There's no question.
Yep.
Now, who they are and what their agenda is, you can argue about that all day. I'm not interested in it. What I'm interested in is reclaiming my sovereignty and showing other people how to do that so that you
Yes.
can be the savior that you've always been waiting for. You can
That's
be your
right.
own guru, right?
That's it.
That's what I'm
I
trying to
love
do
that.
is show people how to unlock their inner healer and their inner guru.
Oh, I love it.
It's all
I
about
love
you,
it.
your path.
Mm. We've gone into Christian churches and said, the biggest problem with Christianity is that they've got most of the people, well, not all, but most of the people are like sitting on their hands waiting for Jesus to return. And I keep
Mhm.
saying, he never said to wait for me. He said to follow me.
Right.
Get up and do something.
I love it. Yep.
Oh my goodness. So yes, I love the path that you've been down. I think you bring a lot of beautiful truths together, and I definitely want people to know who watch this. How can people reach you?
So I have a private Facebook group called the Shaman Circle, and I welcome anybody who's interested in any of this stuff to come into that circle with no obligation. You can ask questions, you can share your medicine, whatever you want to do. I have a way to contact me, and I'll make sure you have the link to do no obligation. I call it a spirit activation call, which is just a 15-minute call to determine if what you're bringing is something that I could potentially help you with. And if I can't, I will tell you because this isn't about money for me. This is my calling and my passion.
Mm,
And if I can't help you, but I know somebody who can, I'll tell you,
awesome.
or I'll thank you and send you on your way. And then I
That's
have this
amazing.
12-week program that I mentioned.
Uh,
It's running now. It's kind of running perpetually, and
mhm.
I have a wait list if you're interested in being in the next group that would go through it.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's very practical. So this isn't an esoteric meditation and prayer group. This is how do I heal myself group.
Wow. Wow. Whew, everybody should be in your group. I gotta say, there's a lot of necessity for healing right now. Oh my goodness. Well, tell me if you go out 5 or 10 years, do you have a bigger vision? Where do you think all of this is taking you?
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to be doing this not only full time, but transition from primarily doing kind of the hands-on practitioner work where I'm leading people to training others to do this
Mm,
and enabling groups to do this. It's the North
nice.
American indigenous wisdom of making circles within circles that are all part of one tribe, right? That's
Wow.
kind of my vision is there's so many contexts for this that I don't have access to. I'm not a woman, I'm not an indigenous person, I'm not a lot of things, right? So what if I could enable people in those circles with this
Mm,
knowledge that they could then bring into their context and help people that maybe would find this information, coming from an entitled white man, not as accessible, right? I try to be very aware of that, and
mhm.
also the cultural context. I mean, I was very worried in the beginning about cultural appropriation and that kind of thing, but the Peruvian shamans made it very clear that they don't see that. They don't see the
Mm,
world that way.
Right.
Their
Right.
mission in life is to make more shamans, and we're all light beings to them. So they don't really care about that kind of stuff. That's something we worry about.
Yes, because we've been
So I
told to.
yeah, we've been told to, but I always give them full credit. And part of how I operate and how we learn to operate is as what we call a hollow bone. So my job is to be a guide and hold space, but the work that's happening is between my client and the Great Spirit. I'm
Mm,
just there as a facilitator and a guide for your work. So
wow.
that to me, that kind of keeps it in integrity with the intention and clean from an energetic perspective. So I'm not in any way trying to elevate myself or say I'm a healer, I'm going to heal you, because it's not me doing it.
Right. Right. Absolutely. You're just a facilitator.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Well, do you see yourself having teams of people, collaborators around you at some point in time?
I do. It's actually already happening. I think
All
I
right.
I talked about the aspect of community and being in community to heal, and I think this is particularly challenging in a lot of ways for men. I think one of the ways that men and women are different that I've seen, not that one is good or bad, is that women tend to congregate and get support from each other a little easier than men do. Men, it's more like, hey, you gotta, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go make a living and, be the breadwinner, and you can't be in pain and you can't show your emotions and all this kind of stuff, right? Which
Hmm.
all cumulatively is very isolating.
Yes.
So one of my current works is that I have a men's group where we hold that sacred space for each other and we can do the emotional work in a safe container. And also, we actually do a lot of work with how we interact with women in that group, like bringing in the female energy and saying, well, how do we heal ourselves, but also how do we mend fences with across gender lines with
Mm,
women and the work they're doing, because you probably have seen, and I'd be interested to have your experience in this too, that women are stepping up into more and more traditionally male roles in society, in leadership roles. And what I've seen on the spiritual front is the people that I've gone through training with and all these groups that I'm in are 80 to 90% women,
mm,
because I think it's part and parcel of what's happening now as an age. I think we're moving more into kind of the divine feminine age. But I also think that women are stepping up because I hate to say it this way, but the men haven't done a very good job globally with their culture, right?
mm.
And I think it's, again, it's that time. And I'm not trying to demonize men. I'm talking about masculine, toxic masculine energy, which can be held by men or
Right.
women, right?
Right.
But it's that paradigm that we're in where everything is consumable and there is no harmony, and I'm going to get mine and screw you, and all of that has kind of led us to where we are. So my work around trying to enable communities in different ways is to maybe in a small way start to change that by doing my work and modeling it for others so that they can do the same thing.
That is awesome. Well, and it occurs to me you might find a friend of mine, Martin Brossman, an interesting connection, because I had him as a speaker when we did our suicide prevention event last summer. And he does men's work, he does men's groups, but his perspective is that there's and I think he would agree with some of what you're saying about more of the feminine energy kind of stepping up and taking more of a leadership role. But his thing is that, and if you go back to indigenous tribes, they had a very a very sacred place for men over here, women over here, different roles, but both being very needed in the community. And Martin's perspective is that there's been too many things that have kind of made men seem like the bad guy for everything. And
Yes,
so some of our young men, especially, they don't have any rituals, rites of passage, anything like that that they're going through anymore. And they are just plain lost souls at this point in time.
100%. Yep.
So, that was his contribution to our suicide prevention. He said, "You got a lot of young men committing suicide right now." And he said it's because they do not know what their place in society should be. And it's like, woo,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Truth, truth there, because and so what's happening is they've got their face glued to a screen,
Mm-hmm.
and they're raising themselves and educating themselves on the lowest common denominator information that's available to our culture,
Mm,
which is social media, right?
yep.
And they even talk in terms of the ones that go off the deep end and go on shooting sprees and stuff as self-radicalizing,
Mm,
which is really scary, right?
it is.
But it's because they get locked into that information and they don't have any other context. They don't have any contravailing philosophy to give them a
Yep.
different context, let alone transition from a boy into a man.
Yep.
So yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Is it's
Mm,
time to re-tribalize in the best
mm,
way, right? Start building these circles within circles that are tribes. And I'm not talking about anthropological tribalism, which they talk about in
no.
the news all the time as a bad thing, right? I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
about that. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about your family, your friends, the family you choose,
Yes.
the people that are going to lift you up. That's your tribe. That's what I'm talking
Yep.
about, right?
Yep.
But there's no reason we can't proactively find more people to bring into
Mm-hmm.
those circles, and that we
Yes.
can all lift each other up and we can all share the best of what our medicine is so that we can help each
Absolutely.
other. I don't think it can happen any other way. At least I don't see a
Mm,
way forward other than that, because
mm.
nobody's coming to save us. The
Nope.
government's not going to save us. The corporations aren't going to save us. We have to
Nope.
save us.
We are the miracles we're looking for.
That's right.
That is one of my favorite sayings because I agree with you wholeheartedly. And of course, I don't have as much connection, and I probably really would love to talk to you more because I don't have as much connection to my indigenous roots as I'd like to have. But my name is a Native American name, and my dad was a quarter Algonquin, from the northeastern part of the country. So that is something that I've always felt very interested in being able to get deeper into because I feel it. I definitely do. But I agree. There's a lot of wisdom there that needs to come out and become a little bit more of the mainstream. So amazing, amazing stuff. I've loved talking to you. I think you've got an amazing amount of wisdom, and I got to believe you're going to be a huge success with being able to not only help a lot of people individually, but be able to replicate some folks with the knowledge that you've got. I think that's an important part of your future. So, is there any final words of wisdom that you would like to leave everybody with?
Yeah, there is. This path can seem very daunting and very overwhelming because we've all got, like the song says, 99 problems. Um, but I want to I want to show you through my example of what's possible. From a
Mm,
man who was suicidal and beset by seemingly insurmountable medical problems to the guy that's talking to you today,
mm,
I feel like if I can do it, anybody can, because I was thick headed as the next guy, right? And all in my rational side, thinking I can figure this out. And it's not about figuring it out, it's about coming to it from the heart. And so be kind to yourself on this path
mm.
and forgive yourself for all the things that you think you didn't do right, and focus on the capabilities that the divine has granted you to figure this out and feel your way through it and connect to the communities that are going to help you do
Mm, yes. I love it. I love it. Peace and blessings to you, Mark. Thank you so much for being with us. And I hope we will have continued conversations in the
that. Yeah,
future.
I would love that.
Until
Thank you, Sean.
until next time, everybody. See you in the next interview. Have an awesome rest of your day.